Beneath the roaring lights, the endless taxis and the towering skyline lies a city that was never meant to exist. A swamp, a trading post, a dream built on the backs of immigrants and ambition. From the ashes of fires to the shadows of gang wars, from Wall Street's golden towers to Harlem's jazz-soaked nights, New York City has lived 1,000 lives. Every street here whispers the story of power, rebellion, and rebirth. This isn't just a city, it's the heartbeat of modern civilization. What if the city you love most was never meant to be? If you love your city, comment below. And if you love your mother, subscribe. Long before the blinding lights of Times Square, before Wall Street defined global wealth, and before a single skyscraper touched the clouds, New York was nothing but wild wilderness and endless rivers. The Lenape people called this land home long before any European ship dared to approach its shores. They lived by the rhythm of the Hudson, the breath of the forests, and the pulse of the seasons. Their world was one of balance, until one fateful arrival changed everything. In 1609, a ship named Halve Man, the Half Moon, cut through the mist of the Atlantic. On board was Henry Hudson, an English explorer sailing for the Dutch. He saw not just land but opportunity, a gateway to trade, power, and riches. What he found instead was destiny. The Dutch claimed the land and called it New Amsterdam. They built wooden homes, windmills, and markets. Within years, the small settlement grew into a hub for fur trading, powered by ambition and greed. But New Amsterdam wasn't just commerce, it was chaos. Cultures clashed, languages mixed, and ambition burned in every man's heart. Africans, enslaved and free, built much of the city's early foundations. Dutch merchants grew rich, while native people were pushed farther away from their ancestral homes. Yet even in its infancy, New York, or rather New Amsterdam, was becoming something rare, a melting pot of human dreams. In 1664, cannons echoed through the harbor as British ships demanded surrender. The Dutch governor, Peter Stuyvesant, watched helplessly as the Union Jack rose over the fort. New Amsterdam became New York, named after the Duke of York. Under British rule, the city's destiny twisted again. It grew into a bustling port where rum, sugar, and human lives were traded alike. The city was becoming the beating heart of an empire, and a symbol of both progress and exploitation. As tensions between Britain and the colonies grew, New York found itself torn between loyalty and rebellion. When revolution came, it wasn't clean. The city burned, spies roamed the streets, and British soldiers camped in taverns that once echoed with patriot songs. George Washington himself fled across the Hudson, defeated but not broken. For 7 long years, New York remained a British stronghold, a city at war with its own identity. But when the war finally ended in 1783, Washington returned. Standing at Fraunces Tavern, he bid farewell to his officers and declared the birth of a new nation. By the early 1800s, New York began to rise faster than anyone could imagine. The Erie Canal, an engineering miracle, linked the Atlantic Ocean to the Great Lakes, turning the city into America's main artery of trade. Immigrants poured in from Ireland, Germany, Italy, and later Eastern Europe, seeking refuge, fortune, or simply survival. Ellis Island became the gateway to a new life, and the Statue of Liberty, the colossal gift from France, became their first vision of hope. But hope was never simple here. The same streets that promised opportunity also reeked of poverty. Tenement houses overflowed with families stacked in rooms smaller than closets. Diseases spread, crime grew, and corruption ruled City Hall. Yet in this chaos, something remarkable happened. The people refused to break. The spirit of New York, the grit, the fight, the relentless pursuit of something better, was born in those crowded streets. By the late 1800s, New York was no longer just a city. It was a universe. The Brooklyn Bridge rose like a stone miracle across the East River, linking Manhattan and Brooklyn forever. Central Park offered a breath of green in a world of steel and smoke. And as the 20th century dawned, the skyline exploded upward. The Empire State Building, the Chrysler Building, and later the Twin Towers, stood like monuments to human willpower. Every new height whispered a single message to the world: we are unstoppable. Then came the Roaring Twenties, jazz clubs, speakeasies, and a restless hunger for life. Harlem became the cultural capital of Black America. Poets, musicians, and dreamers turned New York into a symphony of rebellion and rhythm. But just as the city hit its stride, the Great Depression struck. Bread lines stretched for blocks, stockbrokers fell from skyscrapers, and yet, New York endured. Because that's what this city does. It falls, it rises, and it never stops moving. World War II transformed New York again. Immigrants filled factories, women took the place of men at work, and soldiers marched down Fifth Avenue in victory parades. By mid-century, the United Nations stood proudly along the East River, making New York not just America's city, but the world's city. The post-war years brought another kind of war. One fought in classrooms, neighborhoods, and streets. Civil rights protests, anti-war marches, and counterculture movements all found their voice here. From the Stonewall Uprising in Greenwich Village to the massive protests against Vietnam, New York became the stage where America's conscience shouted out loud. The 1970s, however, nearly killed the city. Crime soared, the economy collapsed, and the lights, literally, went out during the blackout of 1977. Fires burned in the Bronx, graffiti marked the subways, and many believed New York was finished. But the city refused to die. Artists, musicians, and dreamers reclaimed it. Punk was born at CBGB. Hip-hop exploded from the Bronx. What the world saw as ruin, New Yorkers saw as rebirth. The 1980s and 90s brought new wealth and new wounds. Wall Street boomed, but inequality deepened. The city fought epidemics, drugs, HIV, and corruption. Yet once again out of struggle came strength. Broadway shone brighter, neighborhoods revived, and a sense of unity began to rebuild the city's soul. Then came the darkest morning of all, September 11, 2001. The Twin Towers, symbols of global ambition, fell under the weight of unimaginable tragedy. For days, the city was silent. Only sirens and sobs filled the air. But even in that silence, something powerful stirred. Firefighters, police officers, and ordinary citizens became heroes. Across the ruins, candles burned, hands reached out, and voices whispered one promise: we will rise again. And rise it did. The Freedom Tower now stands where the World Trade Center once fell, a monument not to destruction, but to resilience. Today, New York City is a paradox of contradictions. It's where billionaires share sidewalks with buskers, where chaos and art collide every minute, and where no one truly belongs, but everyone finds a place. From Wall Street's golden canyons to Queens's endless neighborhoods, from Yankee Stadium's roar to Broadway's lights, New York is still what it has always been: alive. And maybe that's why no disaster, no crisis, no storm, natural or human, can break it. Because New York was never built on comfort. It was built on survival, on hustle, on belief. It's a city that turns pain into art, ambition into architecture, and strangers into family. When the world sleeps, New York stays awake. When others dream, New York creates. Every immigrant, every artist, every fighter who ever walked these streets left a piece of themselves here. That's what gives this city its magic, its relentless heartbeat. New York City doesn't just belong to America. It belongs to everyone who has ever dreamed of something greater, something freer, something impossible, and still reached for it anyway. There are cities that grow. There are cities that thrive. And then there is New York, a city that creates itself every single day. It's not just a place on a map. It's a living force, a heartbeat of human ambition, roaring through the concrete veins of time. Every morning as sunlight hits the glass towers of Manhattan, millions awaken not simply to live, but to fight for their dreams. Because in New York, existence itself is competition, and victory is survival. But to understand this city, you have to look beyond its skyline. You have to listen to its sounds, the screech of the subway, the laughter in a Brooklyn cafe, the sirens echoing down Fifth Avenue. These are not noises. They are the pulse of civilization. Every sound tells a story of someone who came here with nothing and refused to leave without everything. From its earliest days, New York has been a paradox. Cruel and kind, rich and poor, broken and magnificent. It's the city that gave the world skyscrapers, jazz, hip-hop, and Wall Street greed. It is the city where fortunes are made overnight, and lives can fall apart just as fast. And somehow, through all the chaos, it remains the center of the world. Why? Because New York is not built on geography, it's built on belief. The belief that no matter who you are, what language you speak, or how impossible your dream seems, here, you get a chance. Think about it. Where else could a penniless immigrant from Ireland stand shoulder to shoulder with a billionaire from Manhattan? Where else could a poet from Harlem influence the language of a nation? Where else could a moment of silence turn into a revolution? That's New York. It doesn't care where you come from. It only cares what you're willing to become. Every street carries history under its asphalt. Every brick, every lamppost, every bridge has been touched by generations who came before. Builders, artists, hustlers, heroes. The city has burned, been rebuilt, and burned again. Yet every time it rose, it came back stronger, louder, brighter. Because that's what New Yorkers do. They don't wait for miracles. They build them. To walk through New York is to walk through time itself. You can stand in Lower Manhattan and feel the whispers of the Dutch traders of the 1600s. Walk north and you'll pass the immigrant waves that built the city with their bare hands. Turn a corner and you'll hear the echoes of jazz from Harlem in the 1920s. Go a few blocks further and you'll see where Wall Street's power reshaped the planet. And yet, even with all its wealth and wonder, New York remains deeply human. It's a place of loneliness in a crowd, of struggle beneath success. It's where dreams meet deadlines and hope wrestles with rent. It's not perfection that defines this city. It's perseverance. That's why people come here. Not because it's easy, but because it's hard. Because every corner tests your will, every day challenges your identity. And if you can survive here, truly survive, you earn something no one can take away: respect. But there's another side to New York, the one the postcards don't show. Behind the glittering skyline are stories of loss, of silent hunger, of millions chasing light through shadows. Yet even in those shadows you'll find art, laughter, and love. Because this city teaches one sacred truth: beauty and pain can coexist. At sunset, when the city lights begin to flicker, and the air hums with 1,000 languages, you feel it, the soul of New York. It's the same energy that drove sailors to its shores 400 years ago, the same energy that rebuilt the towers after 9/11, the same energy that dances through every heartbeat, every skyline, every night that refuses to end. New York doesn't stop for anyone. It doesn't wait. It doesn't apologize. It keeps moving, endlessly, defiantly. That's why it's called the city that never sleeps. Because even when you do, it's dreaming for you. But beneath the ambition and arrogance lies something pure, a simple, unbreakable faith in possibility. Here, miracles aren't rare. They're expected. A street performer becomes a star. A dreamer becomes a leader. A kid from the Bronx changes the sound of global music. A woman from Queens becomes the face of global fashion. It's not magic, it's New York. To outsiders, it's overwhelming. To those who live here, it's home. And to those who have left, it never truly leaves them. Because once you've lived in New York, every other city feels like a whisper. So as we step into its past and explore its journey, from a muddy Dutch trading post to the capital of the modern world, remember this: New York was never meant to be easy. It was meant to be extraordinary. It was meant to challenge the weak, test the brave, and crown the relentless. Because in the end, New York isn't a city you conquer. It's a city that conquers you. And somehow, you love it for that. And maybe that's why people keep coming here, generation after generation, chasing that same impossible dream, to be part of something bigger than themselves. Because New York City doesn't just represent America. It represents humanity, our struggle, our chaos, our brilliance, our unbreakable hope. If you love your city, comment below. And if you love your mother, subscribe. Before there were towers of glass piercing the sky, before Wall Street dictated the rhythm of global wealth, before the Statue of Liberty ever raised her torch, there was silence. A mist-covered island, surrounded by wild waters and ancient forests. In that silence lay the first heartbeat of what would one day become New York City. It began in 1609. A ship named the Half Moon drifted into an unfamiliar harbor, its sails trembling against the Atlantic wind. On board was Henry Hudson, searching for a new route to Asia. But what he found was something far stranger, a land pulsing with potential. He saw a river so wide it seemed endless, its waters glimmering like silver beneath the morning sun. Around him, thick forests and untouched shores whispered secrets that no map had ever known. To Hudson, it was just geography. To Destiny, it was the beginning of a legend. The Dutch soon followed, calling their settlement New Amsterdam. But this was no ordinary colony. It was raw, unpredictable, alive, and on a crossroads of ambition and deception. Traders exchanged furs for dreams. Soldiers built forts over forgotten graves, and every shadow in the harbor seemed to hide a bargain. But behind every deal was another secret, the quiet understanding that power had already started to shift. No one realized it then, but beneath the cobblestones of that tiny settlement, the foundation of a global empire was being laid, not with stone and mortar, but with greed, vision, and blood. The mystery of New York lies not just in what it became, but in how it survived. Fires devoured its streets. Epidemics erased entire neighborhoods. Wars tore through its docks. And yet every time something, or someone, kept it alive. It's as if the city itself refused to die. Centuries later, historians would ask, why this place? Why not Boston, Philadelphia, or Charleston? What made New York different? Some said it was geography. The deep harbor, perfect for trade. Others said it was immigration, the never-ending tide of humanity pouring in from every corner of the world. But maybe the real secret was something deeper, the city's hunger. From the very beginning, New York wanted more. Even when it was small, it behaved like a giant. The Dutch wanted profit, the British wanted control, the Americans wanted independence. Every generation fought for the same piece of land. Not because it was beautiful, but because it was powerful. And through it all, strange stories whispered through the alleys, tales of hidden tunnels beneath lower Manhattan, of pirates who buried their treasures near the Battery, of ghost ships that vanished in the fog off Staten Island. Even today, old maps mark forgotten graves beneath modern streets, reminders that this city was born from mystery and death alike. But not all mysteries were buried underground. Some were written in plain sight. Take Wall Street, for example. Today, a monument to money and control. But few remember that its name came from an actual wall. In the 1600s, the Dutch built a wooden barrier there, not to divide wealth, but to keep out enemies. Over time, the wall came down, and greed took its place. The name stayed, a haunting symbol of how easily protection can become domination. Then there was the story of the slaves who built the foundations of early Manhattan. Their names forgotten, their labor erased. Yet without them, the city would not stand. Under the glittering skyline lies their invisible legacy, the quiet truth the city rarely speaks of. Every great city hides its darkness, but in New York, the darkness became part of its charm. In the 18th century, mysterious fires swept through downtown. Some said they were accidents, others whispered of sabotage, of rebels burning their own city to cripple the British. During the Revolution, secret networks of spies passed coded letters through taverns, hidden in loaves of bread and tied under coats. The city became a chessboard of deception, where loyalty could change with a single coin. Even its geography seemed to conspire in mystery. Manhattan's shape, long, narrow, and surrounded by water, made it both a fortress and a trap. It was a city designed to watch and be watched. And through all this, one question kept returning. Was New York made by its people, or were the people shaped by the city's unseen hand? Because something happens when you live here. You start walking faster, talking louder, dreaming bigger. The city changes you, whether you want it to or not. By the 19th century, when ships filled with immigrants began to crowd the harbor, that same mysterious energy pulsed stronger than ever. People who had never heard of each other suddenly found themselves neighbors. Italians, Jews, Irish, Chinese. Strangers who shared only one thing: hope. And that hope came with a question: why here? The answer may lie in the city's rhythm. New York doesn't move like other places. It breathes differently, faster, almost impatiently, as if it already knows tomorrow's secrets. Every building, every light, every scream of a passing train feels connected to something ancient, unseen but alive. Perhaps that's why New York attracts the restless, those who can't sit still, those who believe they were meant for more. The city calls to them. It doesn't promise peace, it promises purpose. Even now, if you stand at the edge of the Hudson at night, you can feel it. That faint vibration beneath the noise. The hum of a city that never truly sleeps. Some say it's traffic. Others say it's energy. But if you listen closely, it feels like a heartbeat. A heartbeat that has echoed since 1609. A heartbeat that refuses to stop. Because maybe, just maybe, New York isn't built on mystery. Maybe New York is the mystery. The deeper you look into New York's glittering skyline, the darker its reflection becomes. Behind every shining tower, there's a secret deal. Behind every monument, a betrayal. This city didn't rise from dreams alone. It was built from suspicion. Power here has always moved in silence. It doesn't shout, it whispers. In back rooms, in smoke-filled bars, in corridors of City Hall. The men who shaped New York rarely stood in daylight. They moved like ghosts. Bankers, politicians, mobsters, and businessmen, all chasing control of the same heartbeat. After the revolution, when the dust of freedom settled, New York was supposed to stand for democracy, but instead it became a laboratory of manipulation. Land was traded like poker chips, influence was bought with dinners, and every decision came with a price. Even George Washington once worried that New York's wealth would corrupt the soul of the young nation. He was right. By the 1800s, a name began to echo through the city: Tammany Hall. What started as a social club for working-class men turned into the most powerful political machine in America. They promised jobs to the poor, but demanded loyalty in return. Votes were bought, elections were stolen, streets were renamed for friends of the boss. And at the top sat a man who ruled the city like a king: William Boss Tweed. Tweed's empire wasn't built on guns. It was built on greed. He controlled the courts, the police, even the newspapers. If you wanted a job, a home, or a favor, you went to Tweed. And he didn't give you anything for free. By the time his empire collapsed, he had stolen the modern equivalent of billions. But here's the twist. The people loved him. He gave them food. He gave them hope. That's the paradox of New York. The same man who robs you can also feed you. As the 19th century faded, a new shadow began to rise: organized crime. Immigrants from Italy brought with them the codes of the old country: loyalty, honor, revenge. The mafia found a perfect home in New York's crowded streets. In Little Italy, backrooms buzzed with quiet conversations. Names like Genovese, Gambino, and Lucchese began to dominate the city's underworld. During Prohibition, when alcohol was outlawed, New York became a battlefield of bootleggers and gangsters. Barrels of whiskey flowed through secret tunnels beneath the city. Jazz bands played upstairs while deals were made downstairs. Money poured in faster than blood could flow out. One man stood at the center of it all: Lucky Luciano, the architect of modern organized crime. From Manhattan's hotels to Brooklyn's docks, nothing moved without his approval. And yet the police couldn't touch him. Why? Because corruption had already infected the system. Judges, officers, even politicians, everyone had a price. The city was no longer ruled by laws, it was ruled by favors. Then came the businessmen. Slicker, smarter, cleaner. They didn't need guns, they had contracts, banks, and skyscrapers. By the mid-20th century, a new kind of suspicion gripped the city. Not of bullets, but of deals made over dinner tables. Real estate became the new battlefield. Entire neighborhoods vanished overnight. Poor families were pushed out. Towers rose where homes once stood. They called it progress, but for many it felt like invasion. Developers and mayors smiled for cameras while quietly trading the city's soul for profit. New York's skyline didn't just grow, it sold itself piece by piece. Even the city's most sacred ground wasn't safe. When plans for the World Trade Center began, locals protested. Small businesses were destroyed and promises were made, then broken. The towers became a symbol of pride, but also of power concentrated in the hands of a few. Through every generation, suspicion remained New York's silent fuel. The rich suspected the poor distrusted the rich. The cops didn't trust the criminals, and the criminals didn't trust each other. That tension, that constant paranoia is what kept the city alive. During the Cold War, that same spirit took a new form: espionage. Hidden inside embassies beneath the very streets of Manhattan, spies from the East and West traded secrets while pretending to be diplomats. The United Nations became not just a place of peace, but a theater of deception. And while the world believed New York was a beacon of truth, inside its veins ran lies, money, and control. That's the beauty and the curse of this city. It hides its corruption behind its charm. But every act of deception here also created something beautiful. Artists rebelled against the system. Journalists exposed corruption. Protesters filled the streets. Every time power tried to hide the truth, someone else dragged it into the light. Because suspicion doesn't just destroy, it awakens. By the 1970s, the city was nearly bankrupt. Crime ruled the streets, the subways were covered in graffiti, and fear lived in every shadow. Yet somehow, out of that suspicion came rebirth. New York learned to question everything, even itself. The people began to see the truth, that the real power of this city never belonged to the rich or the powerful. It belonged to the ones who refused to give up. And that's the thing about New York. You can buy its land, you can own its towers, but you will never own its spirit, because the city runs on suspicion, and suspicion keeps it alive. There comes a point in every city story where beauty and chaos collide, and for New York, that moment has come again and again. The streets that once echoed with laughter have also heard the cries of the broken. The same skyline that inspired millions has also watched the city burn. That's what makes New York the most human city on earth. It bleeds, it breaks, but it never dies. By the mid-20th century, the city was a living paradox. On one side, the world's capital of art, finance, and freedom. On the other, a cauldron of crime, corruption, and collapse. The 1970s weren't kind. The lights of Times Square dimmed, neighborhoods crumbled, and fear ruled the night. Garbage piled on the sidewalks, graffiti painted every subway car, and sirens became the city's music. People whispered that New York was finished. The media called it a city of decay. But New Yorkers, they don't surrender. They adapt. When crime exploded, art exploded louder. When money dried up, creativity flooded the streets. Punk rock screamed from downtown clubs. Hip-hop was born in the Bronx, and graffiti turned concrete walls into galleries of rebellion. The city that was dying suddenly became a movement. Then came the 1980s, the decade of ambition. Wall Street boomed like never before. Suits replaced leather jackets, and money became religion. The skyline soared higher with glass towers piercing the clouds. The World Trade Center stood like twin giants watching over the island, symbols of pride, power, and progress. But beneath the golden glamour, shadows never left. Drugs, homelessness, and inequality grew deeper. The gap between rich and poor widened until it became a canyon. New York's heart was beating faster, but it was under strain. And then, on a clear September morning in 2001, the heartbeat stopped. The sun was shining, the sky was blue, and for a moment the city was calm. Then the unthinkable happened. 2 planes tore through the towers that once symbolized New York's greatness. In an instant, the world changed. Smoke rose higher than the skyline. People ran through streets covered in ash. The air was filled with sirens, prayers, and disbelief. Thousands were gone, and yet, in that darkest hour, the soul of New York revealed itself. Firefighters ran into flames when everyone else ran out. Strangers carried strangers. Blood donations lined the blocks. The city that once represented greed suddenly became the world's heart. The world mourned, but New York stood tall. New York, even in ruins, it refused to bow. The dust hadn't settled before New Yorkers started rebuilding, not just buildings, but faith, unity, and resilience. They said, "We're still here. Years later, the Freedom Tower rose where the pain once stood. It wasn't just a building, it was a statement. A reminder that you can destroy the walls of a city, but never its will. The world looked at New York differently after that. It was no longer just a city of lights, it was a city of courage. But as history shows, New York never stops evolving. It's never satisfied. The 21st century brought new battles, financial collapse, climate change, and waves of protests echoing through the streets. From Occupy Wall Street to Black Lives Matter, the city once again became the epicenter of a nation's conscience. Every generation finds its fight here. Every dream is tested here. Every movement is born here. The energy that began with Dutch traders and revolutionaries has never left. It's in every subway musician, every immigrant restaurant, every protest sign, every Wall Street deal. That's the paradox. This city is built on contradictions. It's both ruthless and compassionate, greedy and generous, broken and beautiful. During the COVID-19 pandemic, when the streets fell silent for the first time in modern memory, New York felt something strange: fear. The city that never slept suddenly went quiet. Times Square stood empty. The sound of applause from balconies became the city's heartbeat again. Doctors, nurses, and delivery workers became its new heroes. Even in isolation, New York found connection, because this city has always been about survival. From 1609 to now, its spirit remains the same: endure, rebuild, rise again. Every brick, every bridge, every park carries a story of resilience. Central Park wasn't just a design, it was a dream of breathing space in chaos. The Brooklyn Bridge wasn't just an engineering feat. It was a declaration that human hands can connect what nature divides. And the skyline, oh, the skyline isn't just architecture, it's ambition frozen in steel. Each tower represents a generation that refused to give up. But New York's true climax isn't it found in tragedy or triumph, it's in transformation. It's in how this city keeps redefining itself. From Dutch colony to British port, from immigrant hub to global capital, it never stops moving. Every crisis becomes fuel. Every fall becomes a rise. That's the real magic. The fire that destroyed one era gives birth to another. Look closer, and you'll see. New York is a living organism. Its arteries are streets, its lungs are parks, and its heart, its people, beats stronger than ever. The city that once burned has learned to shine brighter through pain. Its scars are its strength. Its chaos is its character. And maybe that's why the world can't look away. Because in New York's story, we see our own reflection. The struggle, the ambition, the heartbreak, the hope. It's all there. When you walk through those streets, you don't just see buildings. You see courage. You feel history whispering through every brick, every corner, every light. Because New York's climax is never an ending, it's always a beginning, always a... If there's one city that has shaped how the modern world thinks, dreams, and lives, it's New York. No place on earth has influenced global culture, politics, and economics the way this single island has. The world watches New York not just as a city, but as a mirror of humanity itself. Every idea that matters today has in some way passed through these streets. Democracy, capitalism, art, music, freedom, protest, each one has found a home here. New York is where cultures collide and somehow coexist. It's where languages blend into a single heartbeat, and where strangers from across the world find themselves calling the same skyline home. At its core, New York isn't just a city, it's an experiment in coexistence. From the very beginning, ships brought people from every corner of the world. Dutch traders, African slaves, Irish laborers, Italian masons, Jewish refugees, Chinese dreamers, Latin musicians, South Asian shop owners, each wave leaving its mark, carving its story into the city's DNA. Walk through Queens and you'll hear 100 languages before you reach the next block. Step into Brooklyn and you'll taste food from 5 continents in one afternoon. The city became a living atlas of the human race. No other place shows us so clearly what happens when the world lives side by side. Not perfectly, not peacefully, but persistently. New York also redefined ambition. Here, success wasn't inherited, it was earned. The son of an immigrant could become a mayor, a banker, a movie star. Failure was common, but so was rebirth. In this city, you don't fall, you pivot. That's why every corner seems alive with motion, with hustle, with the constant energy of people trying to become something more. But the greatest influence of New York isn't just economic, it's emotional. The city taught the world what freedom looks like. From the Statue of Liberty's torch to the pride parades of Fifth Avenue, New York became the global symbol of possibility. The phrase, "If you can make it here, you can make it anywhere," wasn't just a slogan. It was a truth forged in the fire of struggle. Culturally, New York gave the world revolutions in every art form. Jazz found its rhythm in Harlem's smoky bars. Broadway turned stories into dreams. Hip-hop, born from the streets of the Bronx, became a voice for the voiceless and changed global music forever. The city never just followed trends, it invented them. Writers, painters, filmmakers, all came to New York not because it was easy, but because it was impossible. Because here, impossibility is a challenge, not a barrier. Every piece of art that emerged from the city carried the same DNA: grit, rebellion, truth. Andy Warhol's studio became a factory of modern identity. Allen Ginsberg's poems screamed against conformity. Martin Scorsese turned New York streets into cinema's most honest canvas. The city made creativity a weapon, and beyond art, New York reshaped global economics. Wall Street became the engine of capitalism, controlling markets that ripple across continents. The New York Stock Exchange isn't just a building, it's the heartbeat of modern finance. Deals made in Manhattan decide the fate of factories in Asia and farmers in Africa. But that power came with consequences. When greed rose too high, the world fell. The 2008 financial crisis didn't just begin in New York, it began because of it. Yet even then, the city didn't hide from its guilt. It became the stage for resistance. Protesters gathered in Zuccotti Park and shouted the words that echoed across the planet. "We are the 99%. New York doesn't just create systems, it questions them. It builds empires, then tears them down when they forget their humanity. Socially, the city became the birthplace of movements that changed the world. Women's rights, gay rights, labor rights, civil rights, all found strength here. Stonewall wasn't just a bar, it was a spark. Marches that began in Manhattan streets ended up shifting global conversations. Because New York never just lives history, it writes it. Every generation rediscovers the city in its own image. For some, it's the dream of freedom. For others, it's the fight against injustice. For many, it's the hope of starting over. That's what makes the societal impact of New York so unique. It's not one story, it's millions of stories intertwining, colliding, and creating something new every single day. The city taught the world how to live fast, how to dream bigger, how to adapt. It created the modern rhythm of life, the hustle, the urgency, the constant forward motion. New York Minute became a symbol of the speed of modern civilization. Even its tragedies shaped the world's empathy. After 9/11, the phrase, "We are all New Yorkers," became a declaration of unity. The city A.S. Pain became the world E.S. Pain, and its recovery became the world E.S. Hope. New York showed that diversity isn't chaos, it's strength. It proved that humanity, no matter how divided, can share the same streets and still move forward. And perhaps that's its greatest gift to the world, the belief that difference is not danger, it is destiny. Every immigrant who steps onto American soil and looks up at the Statue of Liberty carries that same dream. Every child who grows up in a cramped apartment with skyscrapers for neighbors learns the same lesson. Survival is an art, and dreams are worth fighting for. The city didn't just influence the world, it became the world. A place where ambition meets compassion, where capitalism meets culture, where chaos meets creation. So when we talk about the impact of New York, we're not just talking about history, we're talking about humanity. Because New York isn't a city, it's a civilization condensed into one heartbeat. New York is more than a city. It's an emotion carved into steel, a dream that never sleeps, a heartbeat that refuses to stop. Every sunrise here carries a whisper of hope, and every sunset reminds us that even giants can rest, but never fall. From a small Dutch trading post to the capital of the world, New York has lived 1,000 lives. It has been broken, rebuilt, burned, reborn. It has seen greed, glory, sorrow, and salvation. Yet through every storm it remains the same, a place where the impossible becomes ordinary. And maybe that is the lesson the world needs to hear. Greatness doesn't come from perfection. It comes from perseverance. So when you look at those lights shining over Manhattan tonight, remember, they're not just lights, they're stories. Millions of them. Stories of love, loss, ambition, and faith. Because New York isn't just history, it's humanity, standing tall against time. If you love your city, comment below. And if you love your mother, subscribe.